Good morning, listeners, viewers. It's such a pleasure to be with you. I am Jo Bluin. I will be your guest presenter today and tomorrow with the Ramadan Radio. Ramadan Mubarak. I am so delighted to be with you. And today we have a fantastic lineup of guests to keep us all informed and abreast of developments, news and views in South Africa, in Palestine, and globally. Today we will have Advocate Tasneem Fredericks, who will run us through the latest developments in the ICJ case, which we obviously know has seen in recent weeks a counter-memorial filed by Israel. Then we will be moving to think about the deployment of the military within South Africa. We will be speaking to security analyst Yaki Saliers. We will then turn to our Power Hour, our Fire Hour, brought to you by African Muslims Agency. And then we will go just to our north to Cabo Delgado in Mozambique, where Professor Adriano Novunga will give us insight into the latest developments around Rwanda's withdrawal of troops there. Finally, we'll have activist and environmental stalwart Sunny Morgan, who will talk about the catastrophic environmental fallout of the US-Israel war in Iran. I am delighted to be with you. Thank you for listening, and we are going to break for a brief ad break. Thank you. Now it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Advocate Tasneem Fredericks, who will be joining us. She is a lawyer, an activist, and a writer, and Tasneem will be talking to us about the latest developments in the ICJ case. Advocate Fredericks, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the show. Quite a lot going on in the ICJ case at the moment, with Israel finally filing its counter-memorial. Can you talk us through a little bit of the developments just so that we can all be informed at the same level?
I was told that they were meant to file on Friday. I've actually not seen what was filed, unfortunately. But I mean, that filing of the memorial was meant to have happened last October already, and it's a few months late. And of course, there's been ongoing requests for postponements to file. So I'm interested. I've yet to see what they filed. So unfortunately, I can't share that with the listeners. But I can say, and the viewers, I can say that matters of this magnitude, the filing of the memorial isn't per se the end of it, and we've seen a lot of intervening applications from member states of the Genocide Convention, both in favor and in support of the South African case. And then there are, the delinquents who, like the US, like Fiji, like Hungary, who have in the recent week filed, their papers in support of Israel and saying why the case filed by South Africa does not qualify as a genocide. And I think, when one looks at the legal definition, it is clear. There have been a number of, how Israel has met the definition in terms of killing members of a group, the causing of bodily harm, the deliberate inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction, the imposition of measures intended to prevent births, forcibly transferring children, all of these things. And in fact, not only are they isolated to Gaza, and I think this is important for the viewers to note that while we speak, Palestinians in the occupied West Bank are being killed, just voluntarily. Palestinian families go out for a drive in their village and they get shot in the head. Their kids get shot in the head. The surviving children get dragged out of the car and they get beaten. So these are incidences that are not making it to the ICJ, but these are incidences that in fact are happening. We see the closure of the old city, Al-Aqsa Mosque, during the holiest month for all Muslims globally. Al-Aqsa Mosque has been closed for the first time in a very, very, very ever. During the last 10 days, which again is, the last 10 days is spiritually heightened days for Muslims. So, when one looks at killing or disparaging or wanting to harm a specific group of people, it is quite clear that Israelis are intent on eliminating the Palestinians as a group. So that definition has been met. South Africa has a very good case. I'm not sure how many pages Israel has filed in its memorial, in its reply, in terms of either, admitting or denying, but they have just generally denied, all of the allegations brought against them. In fact, the US, in its declaration that they filed last Wednesday, said that the case against Israel was a pack of lies, and this was an attempt to discredit Israel as a nation state for the Jews. And obviously, they always throw the anti-Semitism label around willy-nilly. I just want to state that the 1948 Genocide Convention imposes there's a legal binding obligation on all states to both prevent and punish genocide. And the way that the ICJ clarifies, interprets this prevention is that there's a duty of conduct on all member states to do something about, there's an obligation for them once they become aware of the genocide to do something about it, because it's a serious risk. They must influence, they must make domestic laws that encourage the prevention and the punishment of the act of genocide. And of course, they must be non-complicit. So one then asks, and when the ICJ in its initial interim findings found that they were, that they had made peremptory measures, that should have signaled to all member states that they now had the obligation to impose embargoes. So we thought we were going to see this mass expulsion of ambassadors. We thought we were going to see, economic sanctions. We thought we were going to see like arms and treaty trades that were going to be, imposed against Israel. But we don't see any of this. To a large degree, even though South Africa is the one who brought the case, we are not taking that kind of action that the 1948 Genocide Convention imposes on us as a member state. So,
what do you think? Sorry, carry on. I was going to ask you, Advocate Fredericks, what do you think South Africa should be doing, given that it has taken the South Africa, one of the, this, I believe Bill Shabas, who's a genocide expert, described it as one of the best genocide cases in the history of the ICJ. What do you think South Africa should be doing to follow up on all its obligations under the Genocide Convention?
I think, first of all, it needs to boycott all trade with Israel. I mean, we do know we export coal to Israel. This is a known fact. We are aware that the Israeli flag is still flying high in Pretoria. This needs to stop. So there needs to be a full expulsion of the Israeli ambassador. And I think, just fundamental things like not allowing Israel to do business with South Africa. As much as we may think that we need to do trade and to invite them to help us with desalination plants, these are the same measures that they are using and are using in Africa, where they are transporting kids who have heart problems back to Israel to allow them to undergo specific medical treatment. They know the pressure is on for them, by the way. So the fact that there are now 20 countries or 26 countries that have joined the case puts pressure on Israel. It really puts pressure on them. Their reputation as this only democracy in the so-called Middle East is now being tested, because clearly we are now seeing in real time that this is not the case. For some of us who have visited Palestine and who have had to endure the same kind of treatment in terms of restrictions on mobility. I mean, I've been through a checkpoint several times, and I must tell you, it's not a pleasant thing. So I think that as South Africa is the leading case, we should be lobbying other African countries. We should have had a block of African countries come together and have a special meeting in terms of how do we as a continent move against, as the global South, move against the global North, which comprises countries like Germany. The UK themselves are still exporting, the artillery, the military arms and ammunition used for the elimination and extermination of Palestinians in Gaza. So I think there's a lot more. We've done something, and that's great. And one can't. I'd be remiss to not say that that was a courageous, bold move. I think, when you speak about countries that are, a free country and the voice for a free country, South Africa is a leading voice. But we've done this, and how do we complement by imposing what is an obligation on us, so that we show other countries that there's more to it than just bringing the case. Although that was a big move, it was a bold move.
Thank you so much, Advocate Fredericks. I think what you've really done for us is clarified the kind of strictures of the case itself, but also the broader responsibilities that are imposed by the Genocide Convention. And I just, before we break for an ad, I do want to specifically thank you for reminding us to not allow either this US-Israel war on Iran or the genocide in Gaza to distract us from what's happening in the West Bank, what's happening with Al-Aqsa Mosque in the last 10 days, and to ensure that we redouble on our solidarity. Thank you for that reminder. And thank you so much, Advocate Fredericks, for joining us. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you so much, Joey, and thanks to your listeners.
Thank you. We're going to break for an ad briefly, and then we'll be back to talk about the army deployment into South African cities. Thank you so much.